really cool. Taryn, it's so good to see your beautiful face. Do you mind sharing what you got to get out of this?
Yeah, it was really a massive impact. Um, I started off and in my listening, I was believing that this was traditional and old-fashioned, and it was my resistance. And then I stopped emasculating my dad, and he shows up by giving me a $4,700 check for my birthday. And then my daughter, her birthday is not till February, and they know we were looking for a car. My parents have offered to buy my daughter's car for her birthday. And I was like, oh my God, like I'm in all of a sudden receiving. I'm dating someone now for 4 weeks, and he's really alpha. So it kind of worries me, but I don't emasculate him. My boys, I text them and I started using hero language, and they've been estranged for almost the whole summer. They don't see me, they stay with dad. I started writing their dad. He doesn't respond, but it's been hostile. So instead, I said, would you please have the boys call me? This would provide me a feeling of, like I know the boys are okay. And I said that to the boys. And yesterday I had more text messages than I've had in 3 years from my twins. And they're turning 14 in November. So it's like in every single area, it's like massive change. And then I was dancing with a man last night that I've known forever. He doesn't ask me to dance. And he's like, we haven't danced in years. And he tends to, he's very older and he's slim. And he's, let's dance together. And I wasn't in that zone of the energy of emasculation without knowing it. I was just in a place of love. And we had a beautiful dance, and he never asked me. So he asked me last night after like 2 years of not asking me to dance. I was like, I don't know why he doesn't ask me to dance, but maybe in my way of being. I'm not sure. So it's like everywhere is changing.
That
It
is
was
magnificent. I
uh,
get like goosebumps all over.
every area.
Oh, that is so cool. Thank you
I,
so much for sharing.
I work too with females. I even use the hero language, and I'm getting like more positivity from my staff, female staff.
Thank you so much. Taryn runs multiple dentist offices, and so it's just really cool to see you can. And I was just with one of my clients, and I was telling her how to use this language in the workforce, and it does. Like when you're in a provider and receiving and supporter role, then you can use this language, no matter whether it's masculine, feminine, or whether it's two women or two men. So that's so beautiful. Thank you so much. I really, really appreciate you sharing that, Taryn. It's so great. So, who's next? Who else wants to share their experience? That's huge. Yeah, I love it. I love hearing from Jody. Okay.
Well, it's been so impactful for me, like everyone, and it was really, really, it's been uncomfortable, really uncomfortable. After, recognizing that I was in a couple really bad relationships a long, long time ago, and I've been single for so long, I've just developed so many defenses, almost like that emasculation as a defense. And I didn't even realize how bad I was and how I was pushing away any receiving I could be getting. You know what I mean? Any receiving from everywhere in the universe. So I was surprised to learn that that men like to help. I just haven't experienced that in my life, probably because of my way of being. So that's been really interesting. And it's been so uncomfortable. I've been going through a lot of challenges with my daughter's father. And then, as you know, my brother's living with me too. And I had like a lightning bolt to the brain the other day that, oh my God, I've created the absolute perfect training ground for myself for this work. So I've been using the hero language with my brother, and then even saying things like after he helps with some things, saying you get, pat yourself on your left shoulder and give yourself 100 points for that. And it's just, it's like magic. So amazing to me. I mean, but then also recognizing, listening to Allison's like understanding narcissism, and also men that aren't,
Okay.
that's been really challenging too, to try to determine where and when. But also, even though I feel like I'm dealing with that type of personality, with my daughter's father, I decided, you know what, I'm going to just take on the challenge of just continuing to change myself even more, instead of complaining like, how come I'm the one that has to always be bending and stuff. So the other day, instead of like refusing everything he does try to contribute, he texted and said, "Hey, I would like, would you consider letting me buy you the ticket for this thing that we're going to do together?" And I said, "Great, thank you. I would love that." And I thought, "Oh my God, this feels amazing. Oh my God, what is this?" So it's like I feel like I'm just at the very, very beginning of learning this. I feel like I'm changing deeply who I am in order to do this work. So,
Yeah.
because I've been so independent for so long that I have literally written off any chance of love again. It's going to make me cry, but I've given up. I had given up. So thank you. Thank you so much. This is a great gift.
I love you
So
so
appreciate
much. And there's so much of just relating and also seeing how brave this work is and how there is, like Taryn spoke to, how there was resistance at the beginning for her as well. Like we have this resistance, and there's the chaos of the third chapter that we're all kind of in, like, oh my gosh, and then we're going, yeah, but, and we want to objectify men. Like we want to say, well, he's a narcissist, well, he's an addict, well, so many of my questions were like, well, if I can just objectify him and put one name on a person, then this stuff doesn't work, right? And it was so powerful to just go, like, keep, just, even if they are a narcissist, even if they are an addict or a unhealthy man, like, let them show up in their very best way. And I was listening to Unhealthy Man, and my ex-husband is like, wow, like, oh, that was it, and yet he's shown up because I've done this work. Like he's shown up as his very best self for me. Now, is he like that with everyone else? No, but like for me, he shows up, and for my children, he shows up in his very best way. And that is amazing, right? So I just thank you so much for doing the work, for being so brave, for letting yourself be changed by the work and playing full out. It was so beautiful to have you in the course. So thank you. Yeah. Anyone else that wants to share? I would love to get one more before we move forward. Yeah, Jolene and Julia. I hope both of you share. So
I'm relating a lot to Jody, but the one that's come up for me is ooh, has been a tough one. It was interesting one of the days when Allison was talking, and I can't remember, someone asked a question of, what's the outcome if you're continuing to emasculate men? And it's so interesting not even knowing that that was a word and that's what it is. So one, thank you before I get into this for bringing this, because wow, it's been huge. But the word that she said was disdain. And I was like, I've heard that word before, but I'm not really sure why I'm, kind of resonated with that. And it's really interesting. I've got a 22-year-old son, and my heart is just, wanting to be this, I don't even know the perfect mom, but just the mom, the good mom, the supportive mom. I, thought through all these years, that's what I was doing, and being that supportive and, pushing and, doing all those things. Hence, the things that have come up went, oh, I did that too. But it was really interesting. My son has gotten a new job, and he actually lives in an apartment in my basement, and he come up Monday, and I knew just that he was starting a new job. And so I stepped out and I was like, hey, congratulations. Is today your first day on the job? And he's like, yes, Mom. And I just went, hope you have a good day. And it really just stirred in me all day. And I sat back, and it was like that word disdain came up again. So I looked it up and I was like, wow, that's really what I felt. As in feeling that back from him. And this isn't the first time, but not really knowing what, just kind of going, well, you're rude. you know, I'm asking how you're doing and you're like, so it's really interesting. And so my heart these last few days have been, how do you unwind this? How do you untangle this? How do you undo those things that you didn't even know that you were doing, but could have possibly have created some really bad situation, a really bad relationships, I guess. So it's really interesting because to me, when I started listening, I mean, I was like, rewind, right, rewind, right. I'm like, I'm never going to get through this book because it felt like everything she said was so brand new, language I've never heard in my entire life. And so I finally went, nope, just listen. And so it's interesting. I finished and now it's like, wow, I need to go back and now really do the work because it was so much. It was so new. It was so everything that, I downloaded, wrote and stuff. But now it's like, wow, there's a lot of work to do here. So
Mm-hmm.
the awareness.
Oh, I love it so much. Thank you. Thank you for doing the work, and thank you um for just it takes a lot to just see ourselves for one, and then to learn all this stuff. I listened to one section like 4 times and I'm like, okay, I think I got it. But it brings me to reminding you about the workbook. Like, I'm a very kinesthetic learner, so the workbook is like gold to me. I was doing it like, oh my gosh, this is so good. As I was thinking, I'm like, good job, Paige. But it's just, for me, it brings it in and it makes me do the work. It makes me fill it out and answer the questions and see where I'm doing. And in the last part of the workbook, it says, like, it talks about the idea of deal making. And that's a really beautiful concept, where I know in my family, like, I really had not experienced a lot of like really hard conversations that ended up where people came out glad that the conversation happened, and I love her processes and the things that I've learned from her as far as how to create these healing conversations. Like, that's what's in Lux next, is how to literally heal each other through conversation, and how to have these have the right language for the masculine to heal the feminine, and for the feminine to heal the masculine. And we can, through this new way of communication, do that. And so it's really beautiful. And I just love that there are answers, because like, I love the point she makes, is like, people can't actually be damaged, right? Like, she doesn't believe that men can be damaged or women can be damaged. I don't think that relationships can be permanently damaged. There's something there for us in learning how to use our words so that they work and they heal rather than hurt. And so it's a really fun game to get into, and when there is that disdain, like, to think, oh, like, I can actually learn the tools to heal a relationship where there's disdain. Like, in Gottman's work, he says, if there's disdain, it's over. Like, the divorce is imminent, and I don't actually, like, I think that there are ways to actually at least heal within families and within friendships, where you can express yourself and you can focus on what you want, right? And ask for what you want. And that's the power of this. Like, we got to learn how to ask for our needs to be met. Like, you have a worksheet now, and you can literally just go, I know this is awkward, but I'm going to use a worksheet, because I have some things that I've realized that I'm committed to something enough to have a need. And my need is this, and what that would look like is this, and how you could give that to me is this, and what would you need in order to give me that? Like, that's cool that we can have that much of a process to create powerful conversations and the outcome that we desire, and literally create a life that we love, right? So beautiful. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing, Jolene. And yeah, there's so much in Lux and in understanding men and understanding women for what we can continue to go through. So I have my lovely parents on here. I feel so honored that my family gets to join me in this work. Like, how cool was it that my whole family is now on the same page? Like, it's one thing for a couple, but it's another thing to be like, okay, like, if I could have it all my way with my entire family, like, this is cool stuff. So yeah, celebration. And I want to just honor them for the family that they created that is like so cool. And I want to invite you guys to share if you have anything you want to share about your experience in the course.
Well, Allison came up with some good one-liners. It's
You're on mute.
You're off mute. We hear you.
Thank you. A good one-liners to remember. I can't remember what they are right now, but you know, it's just it's very clear what she's doing, and I just think she's wonderful.
Yeah. What about you, Mama? Looks like
I'm
you're
also
floating.
I'm also really fascinated by anybody who does channeling. I'm just really fascinated by the way she's so focused on the story that she saw through a movie in her mind. And so anyway, it makes it, for me, the information is kind of hard to take and it's hard to remember in a lot of cases, but at the same time, it just rings as simple truth.
Yeah. Yeah, and how amazing that she found this is her original content. Like, she's found this just from interviewing and like talking to real men and women, and yeah, it's really beautiful. Viviana, welcome. Julia, I'm gonna have you share, you lovely woman.
Awesome. Thank you for giving me that opportunity. I just, you know, as you mentioned, the workbook, and I was thinking about just how this was put together in the ability to share and have these conversations together, that we weren't just reading a book on our own or listening to a book, because I know that I would not have made myself listen to all those chapters in such a short period of time. But because there's that motivation to be on the calls and to have discussions with a pod group and use the workbook and the tools, and it created accelerated learning, this compacted period of time where we got to focus and really have our hearts and our energy and be engaged without that momentum dying or going away. And I really appreciated that. And it made me realize the effectiveness of this kind of a system that created a launch pad. So it's like Jody was saying, this is just the beginning. And I feel like we created a launch pad that now we can spring off of to go into even more learning or go back and review and really put the time and effort into practicing. So I really appreciate that. And so some of the takeaways that I had was that it caused me to go back to the question that I've been asking for several years now through our Ancient Secrets community is, after we got going in the program and we're learning all about how to ask for help and what things provide and how to, you know, help our guys play for points and just learning what emasculation is and learning all these different principles. It's like, I came to that point where I'm like, well, what's this all about anyway? And it was like, well, what do you want? And I would just stop and go, what do you want? What do you want? What do you want? And this huge, like, aha, it seems so simple, but it was like partnership. And huge letters in my mind, it was like partnership. This is what it's about for me, is I want partnership. I don't want these individual, you know, like you say, do you want to be right or do you want to be happy? And that's a big one, because sometimes we go back and forth. My husband and I, like, who wants to be right? And you kind of dig in your heels and you see where that happens. And I saw where that was happening with people in my pod with their spouses. And And so just coming back to that, what do you want question every day and saying, you know, I want partnership. Okay, how can I make partnership happen? Okay, well, I can use my tools, my takeaways, like share gratitude before I have a conversation on what I want. I'm first going to say, I am so grateful for these things that you do for me, or how you show up, or express a gratitude. And then go into, you know, I need help with something. This is what I need, and this is what it would provide for me. But I've also recognized that men, and me also, because I have a lot of masculine in me too, is I find that I feel emasculated a lot of times, not just objectified, but emasculated. So this goes for men, women, and any relationships. But it's like, what's the worth it factor? Things have to be worth it for people to want to do it. And it can be worth it if they know what it provides for you, but it can be worth it in other ways too. So just being mindful of what's the worth it factor, and, you know, understanding what emasculation is and all the different categories of emasculation blew my mind. I'm like, holy crap, I've been trained from birth to emasculate men. Trained from birth, my mom, my grandmas. I mean, and so now when I watch a movie, every movie I watch, I can see it. I can see it in all the patterns. So just learning, you know, okay, oh, this is what we're doing. This is what we've done. And it hasn't provided good results. What results do I want? I want partnership. So I'm going to learn this hero language. I'm going to learn how to ask for what I want. I'm going to be less resistant and just like stop and listen, like listen the whole way, even if it's a long story, or if I need to interrupt, if it's going on way too long, because that was what was happening with someone in our pod. The stories were going on like for hours and hours. And then, you know, there is a way to interrupt and say, you know, certain things, and Allison addressed that. But just listening to understand instead of listening to then get your point in next.
Yeah.
And being less resistant, like putting the effort into communicating from a loving heart and saying, where's my heart? Do I want to be right, or do I want to be happy? And just keep asking, and then understanding pumpkin hours.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I am so glad that I understand that. My husband understands that now. So these were some of the few, but there were so many takeaways.
Yeah.
And I'm just really grateful to have had this opportunity to do it in this format. So way to go, Paige. It was really powerful.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And you're going to love Lux, because it talks a lot about just how we listen and how to listen differently, and how we have kind of like certain questions in our head, like, what's the point? Or why are they telling me this? Or what's wrong with me? Like, we tend to have these questions, and it's so cool to go deeper into the aspect of listening and right, it's connection, it's partnership. Like, that's what we want. And I love how you brought up that idea of focusing on what we want, because I just had a coaching session right before this, and it was constantly going back to, but what do you want? Oh, but they're critical. Oh, but what do you want? I want them not to talk down to me. I want them not to do this. I want them not to do that. It's like, and what do you want? We get more of what we focus on. So when you're focused on, they're not treating me well, they're not respecting me, they're not doing what I want them to do, we're just getting more of it. It's just such a principle of life.
It's a practice, because what I've learned is so many people don't know how to formulate, what do I want? Because there's such a focusing on what they don't want. So to stop and really go through that exercise of really imagining it, like even if you do that white frame over your right eye and pinch your finger, you know, like they do at the Indian Marmot, you know, you pinch this right index finger 6 times and just ask, what do I want? And see it. But you've got to see, oh, this is what I do want to create. This is what it looks like, tastes like, smells like. This is what it sounds like, you know, all of a sudden.
It's so good. We have I was so honored that Clint Rogers was a part of this, and he wrote the book Ancient Secrets of a Master Healer, and he talks about that and teaches about how to get clarity on what you want and stuff in his book. Clint, if you're up for sharing, I don't know if you're listening, but would love to have you on. But in any case, it's just been one of the big things, and I kind of got it honed in. I'm like, okay, I got this. You start with gratitude, and then you ask for what you want, and then you tell them what that looks like, and then you tell them what that would give you, and then you ask them what they would need from you in order to get it from you. And so it's like a really clear process. And I kind of got it down, and I realized before doing this course, I would go, I know I ask for my needs to be met, and then I tell them what it would provide for me. And then they should do it because they want to give to me, right? But I had missed like these key components of the gratitude. Like this is, and I've gotten to practice this over the last few weeks of like really, really hard conversations and going in and realizing, oh my gosh, I start with the gratitude. I start with acknowledging all the things that they're already doing and providing and accomplishing and what I admire about them. And then I go into the ask, you know, and sometimes the ask was, I just want to know what your experience has been, right? Maybe it's just the ask is, what I want to create is the possibility that we work together in a partnership and have an amazing, you know, business together. I don't know, like there's just so many different possibilities within this conversation for men and women when we go in with an ask. And again, like there's this fear of being needy. And yet the only time we have a need is when we're committed to something. And so the bigger the life you have, the more needs you have. And I just love that so much. And then one of my clients, one of the people I've worked with, she was saying, you always get what you need. And then you actually have to create needs in order to get more. And like, I tend to have lived so much and I just don't need anything. I don't need much. You know, I'll travel with a backpack like this big because I'm like, I just don't need a lot, right? And then, but if I need more, I'll get it, right? And so what do I want to need in this world? What do I want to create a need for? And what am I committed to? So just beautiful concepts that I love to share and also live by now, you know? So I want to, if anyone else has anything, please just let me know, put your hand up. But I want to bring up the how to move forward, because this is really exciting. I'm so grateful that like, Taryn, seriously, your share was so freaking cool. Like talk about men responding differently to us, you know, and our lives really do transform from this work. And I just want to let you know that there's a way to continue to move forward. And the mastermind is the one that I'm going to really focus on and just go into, because there's a few more details about it that just, it's really for anyone and wherever you're at. If price is the issue, then you can just do the Lux or just do Understanding Men or just Understanding Women. If you want to do all three and get the discount for the programs and do all three in the 3 months together, then do that. The Lux is where we're really going to create the one-on-one, the pods that you meet every morning for 10 to 15 minutes. They're accountability pods and they take your life to a whole new level. So I do recommend that you start with Lux and you do that first one for sure, because it's just so powerful. I just did it, and I love how deep it goes into the foundational work of creating a workable life within relationships with ourselves and others. So you're really understanding like how you listen to people, how you relate to people, how you like what's most important to you, these kind of things, like really learning about even we have practices of like go and ask the people in your pod or ask the people in your life questions about how they see you and what their experience of you is. And so it's definitely a course that you want to do in a mastermind. Like how often have you joined a class and then really skimmed through it or not even listened to it, and you only get 90 days in the essentials? So with Allison's work, you have to kind of move through it at a certain pace, or you end up paying more for the extension of the course, or you just don't end up doing it. So I love this structure of like having people to discuss it with, knowing, okay, by this week, I have to be done this first module so that we're ready to go into the class, teachings. So if you're going to invest in the essentials at any time with Allison, this is a really good time to do it because you'll get your money's worth. You'll get the very most out of it. And again, her program is $750. It's $50 if you use Paige 50 discount code when you get the essentials. And then if you want to join the mastermind, we start September 13th and we'll go into the end of November, and we'll meet each week, and we'll just kind of support you all the way along in the same kind of way that we did here, where we're talking with each other and we're sharing. The meetings will be in this format for the weekly calls, and then you have an additional Q&A with Allison. So if you want to do every second week, you come on with me and then you come on with Allison. If it's too much, you can do that. If you don't want to do the daily pods, then you don't have to. It's we can create it so it works for you, but we're offering all of this, and you can take all of it, or you can decide what part you want to do. But the main thing is you're going to get 24 hours of, it ends up being 29 hours of training from Allison, 3 of her courses, and all the support that you could possibly need to just kind of soar with all of that. And of course, her live event in October is going to be awesome. So definitely look into that. I have that in the email, as well as my retreat that's coming up the end of September. And then I know I've talked to a few of you about the Mega U, and that's like going into an Allison Armstrong University. And if you're ready for that, and that's totally awesome. It's like $2,000, but it'll totally change your life. It'll be amazing. And we will support you in the first 3 months of that. So if you want to do the mastermind, then you can do that, and definitely talk to me about that, because I can get a discount on the mastermind for you. So that's kind of the low down on what you can do to move forward after this and just keep moving along this rapid train of transformation. Does anyone have any questions about it? Because confusion isn't supportive of you. So
Paige, could you say what the Lux stands for again? She said that on one of the calls, what LUX means.
Yeah, it is. I have it right here, so I should. It's on my it's here we go. Liberation, understanding, and extraordinary relationships. So the X is for extraordinary relationships. Liberation, understanding, and extraordinary relationships. And so it doesn't, like the title doesn't, I mean, you definitely find all of that. It's a lot. Even I did it really quick, but I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to go back, and there's so much kind of work booked through it. So it's about 2 hours a week of listening, but it's like having conversations with people and application, everything else. Like I said, when these things are not on her app, they're on her website. So you have to log in and listen. And I actually recommend sitting at your computer and listening, because there's like so many kind of notes, and I don't know, it just helps to be focused for it. It's not as much of a like listen as you go around. I do that, but I end up going back and be like, I want to go back and listen. And because we have all the questions in the workbook that like are specific to what she's talking about. So it's also, if you're just listening and then you talk about what you caught in your pod, like it's just really however deep you want to go and how much you want to go into it. But when I was doing it, I was like, oh my gosh, like eating it up and answering all the questions. And the questions are really good that she has, and that will be in the workbook, that will take it to a whole new level. Jody, yeah. Sorry.
Sorry about that. So the Mega U, can we upgrade to that? I'm concerned about the time constraints for myself to be able, I would like to do the essentials and make sure I get through that, but then I'll probably like to just upgrade if that's a possibility.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good idea because then the timing, it extends the timing of it because I think you have 200 days with Mega U. So it'll be like there is a discount for the Mega U after the essentials. And that's actually a good point that I just would like to know what exactly that discount is if you go into essentials and then after the essentials you decide to go into Mega U. Is it a full just like discount of what you paid for the essentials or not? So I will send an email out with that exact amount just so you can know what you would save if you just bought Mega U from the very start or not.
Cool. And then I just have a couple other questions. With the essentials, how long do we have to enroll? Because I feel like I need to go back through the Queen's Code totally from the beginning again. I've had to listen to this book, like rewind. It's like learning another language. You know?
Totally. I love that. And that's why I made it start in September because I want people to just have a breather, just walk and listen to the Queen's Code again if they want. Like you have 4 full weeks until it starts again. So you have plenty of time to go through it and just kind of take a break from even the classes and the pods and having a timeline and everything else. And then it's like taking summer holiday and then start into another semester kind of thing.
Great.
So
And then I have to go back just for a quick sec because I wanted to know what you said. You have broken it down into the steps. Start with gratitude, ask for what you want, tell them what it would provide, and then what were the last two?
yeah. So it's gratitude, and then you say, okay, this is what I want, and this is what it would look like.
Okay.
And then say that would give me what that would provide for me is. And then you say, what would you need in order to give that to me or provide that for me?
Perfect.
Isn't that so different than you do this and I don't like it and what I need is this?
I mean, I catch myself like going around the house like resentful that the trash is overflowing and like my brother just tried to shove things on the top and everything. And then I go, instead of feeling resentful and everything, and he's like, just ask me if you want, and, you know, do you want me to take out the trash? And I'm like, yes, please, like, hello, you know.
Yeah.
But since I've been shifting it and I just say, hey, would you please take the trash out? Sure, no problem. Do you want me to take out the recycles too? I'm like, oh my God, are you kidding? I've suffered for 52 years without knowing this information.
Yeah,
I
it's
did not
crazy.
know they wanted to do this stuff.
I
Like they don't
know.
mind. They don't mind.
Like watch movies. It's amazing to watch. Like I'm reading books and watching movies like, oh my gosh, he totally wanted to give that to her. Oh my gosh, all he wants is to protect and provide for her. Like you see it everywhere. Once it opens, like the veil is lifted or something, and you're not seeing from a screen of like, men are such jerks and lazy, stupid, you know, like we just have this kind of filter, and then you take it off and you're like, oh, they were amazing. I
Totally.
love
Like Julia said, I mean, we've all pretty much been raised and programmed with this type of behavior.
yeah.
I was programmed this way.
Oh yeah.
I didn't, you know.
Yeah. Well, we were born in such like a feminist movement era where the pendulum had swung, you know, like to the far side. And I hope that we're coming into a place, at least we as this group are coming into a place where we can like appreciate the balance of both, you know? Yeah.
I'm gonna step.
Right. Go ahead.
It's like, because I'm the age that I am, right? It's really interesting for me to see what so many of you think you've been programmed into. And, you know, that's been a conversation because my generation wasn't programmed that way. right? And so it's been a little mixed bag to bounce back and forth to go like, yeah, they're good guys. They've always been good guys. You know, my mom could have written the Queen's Code with the way it was with my dad and my brothers and everything else. And then, right, from the 60s, 70s, that era, it's like, oh my gosh, what is the matter with everybody? Like, who drank all the Kool-Aid that color in it, right? And now it's so refreshing for me to see like the respect and the appreciation for both,
Yeah.
right? And the things, one of the things in this for me is I still don't know how to identify my needs because, right, with all this mix up, it's kind of like Jody said, you know, we've been independent, we've had to do and do and do because of this underlying misconception, and just formulating what I loved what you just said, Paige, about the more that you want, the greater the needs are. That was huge for me with what you said that way, because it was like I had needs and neediness collapsed.
Mhm.
And being independent doesn't mean against, right? Independent means that I'm capable. That's all. It just means I'm capable of taking out the trash because I don't have anybody living with me. I'm capable of getting my windows washed by somebody else. I'm capable. So I think that one statement that you made, the greater the wants, then the ability to ask, you know, whether it's getting somebody to come and wash the windows or whether it's, you know, anyway, it's just opening up a whole new window. So thank you. And I'll just have a conversation with you privately. So
Yeah, well,
right.
with all this stuff, but thank you so much. I love that. And I love your perspective of things, because there's, yeah, like you've seen so much of the cycle of how women have reacted to men, how men were reacting to women, and you're so observant too. But there was a thought I had about just like that's been one of my biggest struggles in this work of like, just ask for your needs to be met. I'm like, I don't know what my needs are. Like, I don't know what I want. And I in a lot of ways, like, I know that when I was a stay-at-home mom and I had these 3 kids, and all their needs were so like literally screaming that I lost my needs. Like, I literally didn't have any idea of what I needed. And so it's been from that place to coming into all the other cycles of my life and spaces that I go into of going like, what do I need? And so the hack I have for you, the fast route, and I always love the fastest, easiest way, is just ask myself, what am I committed to? Right? So if I'm committed to having this beautiful home where I can do retreats and have wonderful people over and lots of parties, then I have a lot of needs all of a sudden, right? I have a need for clean windows and new furniture or decorations for my Zen room, or I have a need, right? So as soon as you ask what you're committed to, that for me, that's my hack. That's how I go into like, okay, all of a sudden I've got my needs figured out. So that's just the fastest, but there's extensive work and worksheets and stuff. And even in your workbook, you have the needs worksheet of like figuring out what your queen qualities are, and then look at what people love about you and what you love about yourself and what you admire about yourself and who you want to be in the world. And once you're clear on that, then all of a sudden that's a commitment. Like, you can commit to being that. And then that commitment to being joyful or being generous, then you look at what allows me to be that. and what do I need and what could be provided for me in order to be more of that. And then all of a sudden you have needs. So anyway, just because I dove so much into that, and I still started, like, one of my first questions to Allison was, I was like, yeah, but what if I don't know what my needs are? Like, I kind of just go back into that. So I think it's part of being feminine and wanting to meet everyone else's needs, or being a people pleaser, or being codependent, whatever you want to call it. But whatever I am, I have that issue too.
Paige, I just wanted to say, yeah, I think we get hung up on the word itself, need, and that's been mentioned before, like interpreting it, the perception of that word need, meaning, neediness, when that's not what it means. It's what else could be provided for me? What can I delegate? What can I hand over to someone else? I definitely can do it for myself. But if I handed it over or asked someone else to do it, how could that free me up to do other things that I would enjoy even more? How could that,
how much, how could it make me more of, like, what could I do so that I'm more of me? Right.
Yeah.
And I think that there's this beautiful, like, I was, my beautiful friend just gave birth, Kella, and I was doing some doula work with her, and we're talking about just this idea of being this, like, the plant that reaches up to the heavens and roots down to the earth. And I'm like, yeah, what are your, she's like, yeah, but what about when all the 5 kids are crying? I'm like at my wit's end. He's gone. I'm like, and like, what do I do then? I don't even know. And it's like, yeah, but what are your deepest roots? You know, what can you reach down with? And what is that deepest root? She said, my divine identity. I thought that was so beautiful. Like, your divine identity, that's those attributes. Those are the queen. Like, it's not just, what do I want everyone else to do for me? It's, what could I delegate so that I can be more of who I am? Like, how can we all be more of who we are on the planet? This isn't just about getting men to do our chores for us. It's about allowing men to become their divine identity, which is a protector and provider. How beautiful. I'm allowing him to be the biggest, the most he can be for me. And now I'm able to be the most I can be for him. And I can be so full of gratitude, and I can just let him know, like, he is my king. He's my hero, right? And my dad's my biggest hero. He's saved me, and he's helped me, and he's rescued me, and he's just been there for me. He's been all of the things that a hero is, right? And I've told him that over the years, like, you're my hero. And I didn't even know I was using hero, but that's how he just is that, because that's who he is in the world, right? But how cool that he gets to be that for me. And I just talked to him the other day, and he was like talking all about how this guy had reached out and asked for his advice. And he reached out and said, thank you. Like, I've changed my life in all these ways, and now I'm making all this money, and I'm doing all these things. And I followed your advice. And my dad felt like a king. Like, you could tell that lit him up. And I'm like, it's interesting. We don't ask for help, and yet we're robbing people of that feeling. Like, my dad's the most, he's a sage. Like, he has the wisdom. He's in this stage of life that he can give that. But people don't reach out because they don't want to bother him. He has 6 kids. He has 15 grandkids, you know. But when people do, it lights him up, right? So we're giving a gift. It's not just about, I want people to do my stuff so I don't have to do it. Like, it's such a bigger game than that.
One of the things to Paige, you know, what I'm finding is it's bringing up hidden fears. One of the things that when I reflect back, it's like we have been taught how to fear rather than how to go to our strengths. Asking is actually a strength. It's, you know, it's not a neediness or anything else like that. And as I'm listening and have been doing this, it's kind of like, what fear am I confronting? You know, what fear is showing up and requesting to be let go of? You know, it's like dropping the armor off. And I found that if I get defensive, or if I get resistant, then it's like, oh, that's some kind of apparatus that I have put inside because of feeling unable to protect, like back to the top three: procreation,
Protection and providing.
providing. And I was listening to something about procreation is about creating. And I was going like, I hadn't thought of it that way. You think of babies, but don't think of procreation as being able to create and the sustainability of the creation, which requires protection, which provided the providing, so anyway, I just think all of this is just like taking off pieces that are inaccurate thinking, and then opening up spaces to actually see what's real, just like the roots and the flower that you were talking about. We're always cutting off the flower, but the roots are always generating new flowers. So
anyway, oh, I love it so much. Yeah. And in the last mastermind I did, which is Love is Letting Go of Fear, there was so much of that, and just seeing, like, really the game is just seeing where fear is and where we can replace it with love. And it's just such a beautiful practice of seeing this in every space. But this is such a big space, especially for women, because we have half the muscle mass. Like, we literally just have way more fear than men do. And so that's probably why so many more women are drawn to this work, because it's like there's this space for that. But I think it's interesting. Allison points out that men are actually more likely to commit. We call them like non-committal. Like, she kind of addresses all the things that we call men, but we call them non-committal. And she says men are more likely to commit to women if they see how they can co-create, if they see how they can protect and provide, right? Like, if they go, oh, I could do that, then they're going to be willing to commit to that person. Jody.
I just wanted to say that, like, what's been really eye-opening for me is, 15 years of dealing with my kid's dad and thinking that he just was this rageful being, right? And so it's almost like I see this pattern, how it developed. Like, I stopped needing anything from him because I didn't want to have to deal with that part of his personality. But when Allison said that, like, the worst thing you can do to a man is like stop him from providing, I literally say to him, like, I don't need anything from, like, no, I don't want you to clean my yard. I don't want you to do, so, and then he gets rageful. And then I say, and then I make it mean like, well, see, like, why would
a terrible person?
I want to be in the space with this? Like, it just disrupts my energy and all this stuff. Not even, and again, like, thinking that I've been doing everything in my power to make this work and all this stuff with this horrible guy. And granted, he might have his own issues. He does have his own issues. However, just in this tiny little shift the other day of saying, that would be great. I would love for you to buy the thing